Liverpool and Chelsea are both through to the knockout stages of the Champions League. Liverpool only needed to avoid defeat against Red Bull Salzburg, but won 2-0 in Austria to finish as Group E winners. Naby Keita and Mo Salah netted the goals for the away side. Manager Jurgen Klopp said he couldn't be prouder of his players.
Paul Howard, who has an incredible turn
Chelsea, meanwhile, advanced courtesy of a 2-1 win over Lille. Goals from Tammy Abraham and Cesar Azpilicueta helped the Londoners finish second in Group H. Vitor Pereira is no longer in the running to become the next Everton manager. The Shanghai SIPG head coach says he is not in a position to make any other commitments. The Portuguese had been strongly tipped to succeed Marcelo Silva at the Premier League club. New Ireland head coach Andy Farrell looks set to be without Johnny Sexton for the start of the 2020 Six Nations. The out half will be on the sidelines for 8 to 10 weeks, having sustained a medial ligament tear in his knee during Leinster's European Champions Cup win over Northampton last Saturday. The injury means it is unlikely he will be fit in time for Ireland's opening Six Nations match against Scotland and the one the week after against Wales at the start of February. And after being sent off in Munster's 7-point win over Saracens last weekend, Arnaud Bourthia faces a disciplinary hearing tomorrow. The South African could face a suspension, with Munster set to meet Sarries again this weekend in the European Champions Cup. And Sport Ireland says the sanctions imposed on Russia do not go far enough to address the sheer scale of the systematic corruption in the country. Russia were handed a 4-year ban from all international sporting events, including the Olympics and the World Cup, by the World Anti-Doping Agency. For offtheball.com, I'm Cathal Maloney.
There's so many ups and downs in my career that we were able to pick and choose which bits of it to put in, because really you got to put 18 years into 6 matches.
For 8-12
Liverpool and Chelsea are both.
Pardon me, but I haven't really seen this as well before.
So we were ready for that fight.
So recently we've seen great innovation in how people tell their story in autobiographical form.
We were ready for that fight.
Chelsea, meanwhile, advanced to finish second in Group H. Vitor Pereira and head coach Andy Farrell look knee during Leinster. And Sport Ireland says the sanctions imposed on Russia do not go far enough to address the sheer scale of the systematic corruption in the country. Russia were handed a 4-year ban from all international sporting events, including the Olympics and the World Cup, by the World Anti-Doping Agency. For offtheball.com, I'm Cathal Maloney.
Where did that come from?
Well, the idea originated when I was out with my sister and I was taking the kids, and they were kind of just up in the forest, and we were kind of having a run around. And she kind of a throwaway comment, but it was, you should write a children's book for Bardstown, and that's genuinely where it started. And by the end of it, I kind of had this idea rummaging around in my head, and it kind of came to a certain point, and I was like, okay, there actually might be something in here. And I knew that I couldn't take this any further, so I needed somebody else to bring it to the next stage, whatever that might be. So I got in contact with Paul Howard and left him a message, and he would tell me later that his initial reaction was, he thought I was ringing him to do an autobiography, and he was like, how do I get out of this? So eventually, when he did return my call and I pitched him the idea, he said he could already see the story unfolding and where it was going to go to. We went to his literary agent, Faith O'Grady, who was incredible, and she just went, listen, I know exactly who this is going to. And she went to Penguin. They believed in it and they got into it, and the thing just kind of it snowballed from there.
Yeah. So him getting involved is obviously quite important because he's incredibly creative. Do you feature in the Ross books at various stages?
I'm sure I have, given. Ross Carroll Kelly. Sorry, I know I have, because Ross Carroll Kelly is a parody of South County Dublin at its early stages, and I'm pretty sure I featured very heavily.
Didn't you have a pair of boots?
Yeah, I did have a pair of boots, and if you show that on the thing,
I don't have it.
It may go across the desk here. There may be a Henry Sellers moment here.
We can edit it. Yeah.
So no, just what I love about Paul Howard is he's like. While he does get pigeonholed with the Ross Carroll Kelly, like he's a sports journalist, and like his way of communing with the Irish population, that people read his books, it doesn't matter if you're from Dublin or you're from Cork, everybody, it kind of resonates with his style of writing, because it makes you feel like it's not you, it's somebody else that he's making fun of.
Yeah.
And I just love how he writes. So I couldn't think past him, so I needed him to get on board with this, because I was struggling to think of anybody else that could capture what was in my head and help bring it to life.
So the idea of a book for kids kind of comes from your sister. It's a great idea.
Yeah. And then you're we all have kids now, and you're a little bit pre-positioned to that, and like Julia Donaldson, I'm I don't need those books anymore. I can pretty much act them out, and moving on to Oi Cat and all these different things. So like you're just, it's just there, and it seemed like a thing because like the main thing was, you know, I'm retired 4 years, like 2015 World Cup. I had no cathartic need to write an autobiography.
No dirt to dish, no scores to settle.
Like I had a really nice career, played for 18 years, didn't get the finish I wanted, but you know, like I have very little to complain other than, and I've nothing to complain about. I look back with probably rose-tinted glasses on it. Probably not that interesting a story because it's mirrored with a lot of other people's stories, and you're just telling it through a slightly different lens. And you either write a really book on the same lens, or you write your genuine perspective, which will probably annoy a lot of people. And you know, Ireland's too small for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, so you do have stuff to annoy people with.
Yeah, but like, you know, 20 people, like 30 people look out a window, they're all going to see 30 different things. Yeah. Everyone's experience is very different. And my challenges, which were actually reflected in the book, are a little bit different than other people's. So like, you know, struggling to fit in, you know, being overeager, trying to get attention by being the loudest in the room rather than, like, those little things, they're challenges that
every kid
40-year-olds Jay's going into new work. Like, it doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, it just happens to be an easier lens for children to understand. As Jerry Fanlery pointed out during the World Cup, he said there is a lovely irony in the fact you've written about a book for, you know, 8 to 12-year-olds, which kind of gives an insight into the mentality you had for most of your rugby playing career.
How do you put yourself in the voice of an 8 to 12-year-old? Like, how do you communicate on their level when you're trying to sit down yourself and Paul to map this out or to write it?
I think that was, you know, mostly Paul's challenge, and I think the way we looked at it was, if you try to suggest that writing for a children's audience is easier, it's actually harder, because language has to be very succinct. You have to understand your audience, and that took a while. So we did get some feedback from children along the way. Right. With books we were saying, and stuff that we could, so the same thing, you know, confirmation bias, or, you know, not being able to see the wood from the trees, whatever way you want to look at it, we were too close from it, and kids pointing out a little bit of fault in our logic and saying, oh, well, how come Gordon was able to do that to that but not able to go from there to there? And you're like, okay, so you understand how a child's mind works in some ways, and that was the biggest challenge, understanding which way how you set the world that you know, that Gordon exists in this, why he can go and play for the senior team, and you have to explain the logic behind that, and then the logic behind him going straight into the international team. And once you set the logic, you don't question it, and it flows on from there. So, and this is why, you know, this would have only ever been an idea if Paul hadn't have gotten on board with it.
What's Oi Cat?
It's a kid's book.
Right. Coming your way.
Is
you
it?
Get there.
What age groups is there? What's the?
3, 4, 5 maybe.
What is it?
Oi Cat.
Oi Cat and Oi Frog.
Right.
We don't have.
Yeah.
Are they good? No.
Like, they're all good the first time.
So the
3 months of reading the same book every night later.
It's the 25th. It's the 25th reciting of it, or version of it. Yeah,
They're a year
in
past
an evening.
Sort of Room in the Broom and that.
You
kind
need
of
to get into a book swapping cycle. We were very lucky. We have older cousins who just hand it down, so we like this massive library of stuff that you never have to repeat.
Aoife
stuff.
went into Eason's, and she must come out with like 20 books, and put them all down, and they went straight past the 20 books, looked at them, said, yeah, that's fine. Went straight back over to the one they want, which is just like...
I find some of them, like, you're trying to get a bit of a sense of it, obviously, when you're in the bookshop or you get a recommendation or whatever, but some of them, we've got a couple that are just weird. Like, there's one of them about this kid who finds a lost penguin.
Oh, Lost and Found.
Lost and Found.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest
Oliver Jeffers
story.
Yeah, I quite like it.
It's
Oliver Jeffers is amazing.
Depressing. Like, it's so sad. Like, why does it need to be so fucking sad? Like,
his life could be sad, Adrian.
No, but I know that. But like, my son is like 3 years old. I don't need to be telling him about how sad. It's like, you know, he goes off and he gets like, the boy thinks he's bringing him back to the Antarctic, and then they get there, and then he's like, oh, I'll see you later, and then
they find out they're friends, and then they have a hug.
The penguin ultimately goes back away from the Antarctic.
It's like the snowman.
Goes home.
No, ultimately the snowman
story there
melts by the end. Have you seen you've seen the
I understand
snowman.
what happens with
he
the
dies.
There's a sadness.
Yeah.
But the journey is
I just thought it was
nice.
a bit needless.
Also, the art is amazing.
No, that's lovely, but I mean, my son is 3. He doesn't give a shite about the art.
He likes the pictures.
stories.
I'm telling you.
Did you get a sense during this and probably the research that was done around it? Like, did you get a sense of what kids want from books? Are they looking for a happy ending?
Are they? Why are you laughing?
I mean, what a question.
No, there is a flow to books at this age that it's not a template, but there is a
resolution,
a story to it. Yeah, there needs to be a resolution. And there is the story, then all is lost, and then the potential redemption, what happens from it there, and then if it's a series, how you line it in for the next one.
Yeah. Lad. Ignore him.
It's gone. Whatever's saying now is...
Punch the two of them there. Go on.
So it's not like the happy ending is probably the wrong word. Is there a moral in it?
Yes,
Unintentionally.
Let me ask that question.
Yeah, unintentionally, yes. But it is because it being reasonably mirroring my career, and there was I fortunately had to learn a lot of lessons, but I did learn from them, and then helped me stay playing professional rugby. Obviously, one very young at like 19, again after breaking my arm, and then into my 30s having to change my game, reflect, and try and get information into it, and that. Even if you make mistakes, people will give you another chance, and you can keep going. So that was, something that inadvertently came out in the book, and parents will like that about it because
Well, how do you teach resilience to kids? It's very hard.
Yeah,
especially when they're like bawling, and you're like, "Oh, it's actually good for you in the long run." But ultimately,
we were in
now.
one of the schools, and and they're saying, "Listen, this is something we're trying to raise," and they're going, "It's okay to make a mistake."
Yeah.
I think that was why Paul smiled, and with my story, when it was once we got the idea, and he was like, "Okay, it's not your autobiography." He knew my story because it's been so well documented. I've had so many cock-ups in my career that it's been well documented and well read. So he was like, "This story makes a lot of sense, a lot of fun." And then when I told him what I was like growing up in Wexford and in Clongowes, he was like, "This makes even more sense."
Were you wild?
Spirited, I think, is the technical term. Yeah, my parents, so my mum and dad are reading it now, and they kind of are smiling because, they had to deal with a fair old brunt of it.
What kind of stuff?
Well, I suppose, the devil makes work for idle hands. I would be that kid where you'd walk into a room, when you've got our own kids and you put them into a room and you're going, this is okay, I can go to the toilet or I can go and get a cup of tea.
Fatal mistake, but go on, yeah.
And then come back and you're just like, wow, you did that.
Yeah.
There is no way I could possibly have conceived you would do that. I'd be that kid.
Yeah, okay.
Right the way up until I was
17.
23 or something.
Okay.
So how does that outlook then impact on because that's definitely something I think we all sort of, obviously moving from a kid into the experiences, you become a different person over a period of time, ideally, at some point or another. But
does this make you tolerant of your own children doing this, or does it make
the context of knowing that you were that kid at some point? Does that?
Well, I actually had a reverse moment on that where my mum was over and I was kind of, looking for a bit of empathy from my mum, and I was like, he's doing this, that, and other, completely forgotten all the stuff that I've done, and just going, isn't my life so tough with having to, with a very good child, just trying to juggle everything in, and he's very good. And my mum just kind of smiled and looked at me and just went, "You know what? You were literally 20 times worse than him." And I wasn't there going smiling. I was actually going, I felt really sorry for my mum.
Yeah.
He's just there going, he's hard to manage sometimes. And I was just there going, wow, yeah. Fair play to you, Peg.
Yeah.
We definitely, one thing that we come back to regularly is the change in relationship that having kids gives you with your own parents, that you're suddenly asking them a bunch of questions that you wouldn't have even considered before, and the level of communication that I've certainly found that it would have opened up with my parents, that I would have been having a lot of that, Jesus Christ, you really are a proper saint. Have you found that it sort of opened up a lot of different avenues?
Yeah, and then you've also the other side. You see the other side of the grandparents, and you're just like, they're spoiling grandkids and then you're just like, you never did that with me.
What's this person?
You know, my dad is a completely different person around his kids. But then he's just there going like, well, he's now a grandfather, so he's just there like, my job is just to spoil these kids.
Exactly.
And it's your job to pick up the pieces afterwards. And I was like, thanks for that.
Yeah, he's entitled to do that now because he's
he's I've done this.
His work is over.
As you said, like you're off the balance sheet now, so
yeah. He could be the good one.
Yeah, so like the relationship completely changes, but like, I think like it's like for the better, and it's like it's fun, and you know, you kind of like, but it does give you like an insight, and also kind of shows you it's a lot of what you don't know. And that and also I think the big thing is your parents can't give you this is exactly how you do it. They kind of give you their experiences, and then you realise actually nobody really knows, and they're just doing the best they can, which is kind of a nice place to be.
Nobody is a famous quote. Nobody knows anything. Like, I think about life generally, I think it absolutely applies to parenthood. Like, these schmucks here would sort of give you a chapter and verse about what, you know, the correct way to parent.
Excuse me, what are you talking about? That's a complete lie. We do the exact opposite. You've got a boy and a girl, is that right? Yeah. What's the difference? How do you find that?
Well, so my daughter's older, so she's 4.
That was pretty lucky, right? Because at least there's a calming influence on the madness that comes after, I would argue. We went girl, girl, boy, so
she's there's very little difference between the two of them.
So they're both mental, right?
Yeah, they're both. They just like running a lot and climbing stuff and breaking stuff and running some more and attacking the dog, and like our dog's not small,
right?
Yeah, so
the dog fight back.
Yeah. he plays a game with them. I've got plenty of footage where he's pinned them down.
I love that you're standing with your phone like
no, it didn't start that way. It started as like, oh, look at the game they're playing, they're chasing each other, and then one of them will fall over and he'll just pin them and do something else to them then, and it's like, I have that saved for your 18th birthday. All right. But yeah, they're just like, there's no difference between them. Like, she's a girl, she's much more, you know, organised and, you know, much more into make-believe and things like that. And that's probably the age side of things. And he's just like picks up, like, you know, a car and just go around bashing it off stuff.
Yes, he's just like, can I break this?
I was like, just like, why? And he's just there like, and he's just like big smile on his head and he's like, this is fun. And he's just like breaking stuff. And it's like, wow. And then she'll tell him to stop and then it'll all kick off. And somebody will end up with that kick from 300.
Yeah. Just
over the wells, you know, the foot up, and he just gives that into the chest.
That's the worst thing about them getting older, because my 2 lads are 7 and 6 now.
The damage is real.
The damage is real, and the reaction now at the slightest thing, the older lad, like proper thumps, but if the younger lad moves in the wrong direction at the wrong time, it's not a thump in the back, it's a thump right in the jaw.
Yeah, so
do I get angry about this or just let them at it?
Yeah, Mal Kelly's got 3 boys, and like obviously Mal's not a small man, and they're not going to be small boys. Patrick, Dylan and Cian, and it's just great crack watching them because they are just
killing each other.
No, not as, like, I'm sure they do when I'm there. They don't, but they're just like a force of nature. Like it's like a hurricane coming through of energy, and they're all just like big smiles in the face, running through. Hey, boys, real, and they're just gone. And just like.
It's like Mal with energy. It's like
what just happened?
You had your kids at the end of your career, is that right?
So like my final game of rugby against Scotland for the 2015 World Cup, which was probably one of my worst games of rugby, was mildly offsetted. Well, I was massively offsetted by having Soleil there. So that was my last game, her first. That was a fitting end.
How old was she at that stage? Just born?
Yeah, she was born in May that year, so but that was late July, early August. And one of my worst games of rugby.
Right.
Body was gone at that stage.
Just couldn't do it anymore at that.
You know, I looked at the video after the match and went into Murphy was like flicking through the video, and I was like, because we did. It was back when we, you know, were doing the Joe Schmidt plays off of first phase, where it's like, you know, really good hit up, and then 3 or 4 multi-phase, and then like the Great Red Sea opens. Nobody really knew what we were doing, and I was still like, this happened for me. Came off a scrum and I was like going through. All I do was catch the ball and like run 60 metres and score it. I was like, yeah, this might. I'm on the plane to England, brilliant. And I get cut down from kind of behind, and I was just like, you know, that must have been a covered winger or something like that. And then I look at the video and it's like, you know, a loose head prop gets up, walks to the next ruck, and catches me from a standing start. And it was like, you know, on the call with, like, afterwards, Joe was like, yeah, I really thought you were going to make it to the line. I was like, yeah, so did I. So that was the end of it.
And having a baby, did it have any impact on like arriving at that point? Because I definitely remember not being able to do things after the first child was born that you were kind of taking for granted, like risk taking. You stopped taking risks in a way. You suddenly are conscious of the fact that you're responsible for this other living thing, and you're now fully in charge of making sure that
what risks you were taking that really made you.
When you said there was things I used to before I had children that I no longer do as much, I think we all knew what you were saying, but what sort of risks were you taking?
Just general, like, I'm not going to take any risks. For a period of time, there's definitely like a whoa.
Like you used traffic lights to cross the road and stuff.
Stop and press the button, wait for the light to go green, you know?
No, like, if anything, I do think I would have loved to have had them earlier, because being a professional athlete affords you a lot of time with the years with children where you're never going to get back.
Yeah.
I think like, if most people are honest, anyone that's reasonably close with their children would love to be able to spend a bit more time with them when they're at this age, which is, you know, the formative years, whatever it is, but the years where they actually don't need anything from you other than your company. And it's quite hard then, because there's an economic reality to life and everything. But being an athlete does afford you those times where you kind of.
Actually, if you had them in your early 20s, you've had those time with them.
Yeah, like Keith Earls had kids quite young, and he was and he's playing. His kids are old, and Rory Best as well. Oh no, Rory's nearly 50. But like those guys, when you are playing, once you get through there is a tough bit with children. I don't think anybody would ever say it isn't sleepless nights and everything, but when you get into that bit where where my kids are now, I'd love to be finishing at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, having a down day on a Wednesday, and knowing like I've got two pretty fun little people to hang out with.
Yeah.
So that's apart from that. Now it's just like we try to spend as much time at the weekends doing that, and it's just a different way of doing it.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously Alex Ferguson always wanted his players to get married young and have kids young to settle down. In retrospect, it was probably a good thing for them as well. I'd never thought about that. You do have a lot of free time as an athlete that you're supposed to be resting, but obviously it's not very restful minding two young kids.
Yeah, well, I think once you get over that bit, where you can actually occupy them. And now, as you say, like we're laughing and reading books and stuff like that. It's hardly taxing reading a book and doing drawing, or having doll's house is the bit. It's like you kind of have to get to that place in your head where you're going, I need to actually enjoy doll's house, or it's going to be a long 2 hours.
Yeah.
Make believe for yourself.
Yeah, just getting into it, because it's like the last thing you want is like someone going like, Daddy, come on, and you're just like, okay, right, just. Who am I? Where are my characters?
Throw yourself in.
Yeah, just go for it.
Trying to be present in the moment is a thing, isn't it? Like it's, you know what I mean? Like particularly when you're, I suppose, I guess it applies to when you're an athlete as well, but like trying to forget about all the stuff that's going on in your life that day to actually be there and be involved with the doll's house.
Yeah, it's very easy. Like when you're an athlete, you can't bring your phone into the gym, like, and plenty of people did try to, and it's just like at some point you're just there like, this has to stop. Like phones stay in the changing room. Let's try not bring them to meetings, and if we went off in a meeting, like you get a fine, this kind of stuff. So we're just like we need everybody to be attention here when you're on, and you obviously can't have them in a game. So like I think the phone thing is it's a big bugbear of mine, particularly because it's always there, it's always active. Even when you turn the thing off, it seems to beep at you.
Yeah.
It's like clicks into the Wi-Fi or something, and it's just so distracting. And the things are designed that when they click, you just can't forget about them. You're just
That's
like,
right, yeah.
Oh,
it gnaws away.
It's over there. It's over there.
Yeah.
So it's hard, and everybody would love to aspire to it, but the things are addictive as hell. And then your kids are looking at you going, why aren't you doing this with me? So it's a constant battle.
Our 5-year-old yesterday announced that they've got tablets in school, as in like they even have tablets in school and we don't have them.
Well, I was at a talk last night, which we might come back to again, which was all around for the parents in the school around phones and social media, and scared the living daylights out of everyone. And one of the parents did raise the point of, well, our schools not more and more going to iPads, that they're getting rid of books. And the guy giving the talk was pointing out, well, actually, a lot of schools did that and are now going back again.
Yeah.
Because they've realised that regardless if it's educational, like the backlight on the iPad is the problem, as much as quite often the content is obviously not great. But even if they're just reading educational material, the backlight is doing huge
saying, like, even the dexterity of holding a pen, like, how do you, like, handwriting, kids that don't even think, like, that whole thing, like, it scares like, we're a little bit away from that yet. But yeah, like, I can be quite belligerent. I'm kind of happy to be the dinosaur and all my friends have one. I don't care.
Yeah.
Dad, unfortunately, because it just scares the different daylights out of me. You see a lot of people coming back from Japan and they're talking, they've got texting lanes when people are walking.
What?
And you're just like, really?
So you don't bump into each other? Or?
Yeah, so if you're walking, you can just walk in the thing, so you know people aren't going to walk into you.
So the one direction. Wow. Gee, that's really good idea, actually.
They also have people with shovels pushing them on. Do we get them on the Lewis as well?
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, it's not a bad idea either.
Gordon, the book, it's obviously something you have to live with after you write it, you pour your heart and soul into it, and then it comes out, and then you've got to go and tell everybody about it. So what's that process like? Has it been good to relive it and go through all that again?
Yeah, like, I think, like, I suppose I didn't realise it would be as much as it is, which is actually a reasonably good complaint. So we've been into schools and we've done some kind of show and tells in schools. We've reenacted a few of the scenes, and it's been really, really well received. Anyone that's read it has been well received.
Does that come naturally to you, or is that something you have to kind of like swallow hard and go, yeah, I'm going to let's do this. I can do this.
Yeah, it's not like very, like, most things. Anything to do with any sort of media or anything like that is not natural to me, so I kind of have to gear myself up to it just mentally and just go, okay, need to get ready for this, and embrace it and just and go after it. And
a bit like playing with Doll's House for 2 hours.
Yes, absolutely.
You just play a character, right?
Yeah. But the whole, like, writing the book was actually really fun because I got to think back with, because it's 3 chapters. It's obviously growing up with my family, the next family in Clongowes, which is a big part of my life, and we had our 20-year reunion, and there was like 60-something out of 72 at the 20-year reunions. We're quite a tight group of guys. And then with the next family, we just playing rugby for 18 years and trying to weave that story into it. And really enjoyable looking back. As the first time you probably do, you always hear the athletes saying, like, oh, you tend not to look back, you're always going forward, always going forward. I've stopped now, so I kind of look back at it, and then that process was really, really enjoyable. And some stuff I've, like, meeting the lads from school and from rugby and telling me about this story, 80% of them can't go into a children's book, but funny nonetheless. And then trying to see how we could weave them in, maybe for future ones, because we have to start work on the next one now.
So there's a sequel.
Yeah. So you obviously haven't read it because at the end of it there, Joe Schmidt comes into the end of it, but that's fine. I won't.
And a third book as well.
Yes. Somebody read the brief.
No, Paul. I was just thinking, did he tell us that off air or on air? Paul Howard was at a show with us recently.
Yeah.
There's a book about the Lions?
Yeah, so we have to do Leinster next, and then one with the Lions the year after. It won't be New Zealand.
And so this one's for 8 to 12. Is the next one for 12 to 16? Is that how it goes?
No, so
they'll all be 8 to 12.
Yeah, so the character will remain aged. So we've kind of aged age out of it, so we've kind of removed age from it. So this is the universe. It exists, a bit like The Simpsons. Stories happen, and the character, Roy the Rovers, that kind of thing, stays the same age. No one questions.
So it's a long-term commitment then.
Well, hopefully it is. Yeah, Penguin have been brilliant the right way through it. Louise sitting outside, who's been an absolute legend the right way through it. And yeah, so they're hopeful that it'll be successful, and let's get through these 3 and see is there more in it then.
Well, listen, congratulations on it. It's called Gordon's Game, and it's available in all good bookshops and all the rubbish ones too. Gordon Darcy, thanks very much. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Well done.
Cheers.
Good stuff.
Good.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
That was some